You are listening to the Independent Dealer Podcast with hosts Luke Godwin and Jeff Watson.
Hello and welcome to the Independent Dealer Podcast brought to you by Buckeye Dealership Consulting. Today, Luke, we have a friend of the podcast, Mr. Jason March, all the way down there in Florida. Jason, how you doing, man?
Things are good, guys. A little slower than what we're normally used to here in tax season, but things are good.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing, Jason. We're over here on the East Coast, and I don't know how the rest of the country's doing, but I kind of got that vibe that it's a little slower than everybody wants it to be. And honestly, after the last 2 years we've had, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. How about you?
Yeah. Well, our situation is, I've always feel like we're about 2 weeks behind the rest of the country where I'm at. I don't know if that's a time zone thing or what, but we're always a little bit behind everybody. So when I hear you guys start talking about the slowdown, I just know that it's coming, because we have the same situation reversed. When you guys were all killing it 3-4 weeks ago, we were not yet seeing it. So I can definitely see that wave kind of moving through the more urban areas and rural areas as it kind of comes across.
Well, the biggest reason we got Jason here today is Jason is a presenter at Buy Here, Pay Here United. We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks at the summit. And Jason is speaking on Monday, April 11th at 1:30 p.m. So, Jason, what are you talking about?
So the topic is a 100 level topic, and the title is What Makes a Good Deal? So I'm going to start with, I'm going to not focus so much on your credit application and time on job and time at the residence, because I feel like
everybody knows that, right?
Yeah, those topics have really been beaten to the ground. Like, Jeff, you may do it one way, Luke, you may do it one way, I may do it one way, and it all works. I think I'm going to go a little deeper into understanding your market, specifically where's your dealership located, who's around you, what have they been buying for, what are the people buying from you over the last several years? I think that's something that dealers have always just taken for granted. It's just like, if I stock the vehicle, they will come.
It's got to be the right vehicle, right, Jason? It's not just a vehicle.
So I'll kind of use an example here. If you're in the middle of a low income area that has a lot of, let's say, African Americans, public housing, if you are stocking a vehicle that appeals to that market, I believe you will have a lot more traffic. If you are stocking a vehicle that is not appealing to that segment of the market, I feel like you're not stocking your lot for your community.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense.
I think we've missed that a lot.
Sure, there's so many people that just go out and they buy whatever
they like
at the auction. They don't have a particular way to look at what they're buying and oh, well, that's a good deal, I'll buy that. Well, that's a good deal, I'll buy that. Well, you end up with a bunch of silver Tauruses and they can't sell them and they wonder why. You're so right, and it's all and also about price. You can outprice your market too, can't you, Jason?
I thought one day I'd go to the auction and we'd try some lower mileage, newer vehicles that were off, like a rental car type vehicle. So we put some cars out there that were, this is probably 6 years ago. We're putting some $9,000 ACV units out on the front line, where at that point our ACV was closer to about 6. And it was a disaster. Those cars sat on the lot for a year. We ended up having to give them away. We didn't know how to sell them. We didn't know how to price them. And it was just something that was out of our wheelhouse. So I would encourage people to really look deep in their history, see what performs well, and see where your customer's coming from.
And also how much money they make too, right, Jason?
That's a huge piece of it. You can't have a $600 payment when your customers are making $1,200 a month.
Yeah, for sure.
And so much of what I think about is when you talk about like product market fit, right? Like you have a market you need to make sure you have the product that fits that market. You know, that's a big talk in the tech industry, but also how much of that has to do with where you positioned yourself in the market? Because I look at a guy like Luke and he sells a very high ACV, right? And I don't know what his demographic is in your market, Luke, but I got to imagine that in your same market, there's a guy selling a very low ACV, doing really well too, because he says, hey, I'm in rural South Carolina. Average income is maybe, you know, 40,000 a year. I got to be in this cheaper range. And he could probably do really well. But then there's Luke that says, hey, guess what? There is a whole nother group of people that need our services that can afford a $400 or $500 a month payment on a nicer truck, and they're willing to do it. And so my market is this segment of people, and I'm going to market, and my whole dealership is going to be geared towards those people. I mean, so is there a place for you to position yourself in your market, kind of like what segment you want to service?
You can't be everything to everybody. And I've tried to do that before, have a real high end ACV, a real low end ACV, and something in the middle. And nevertheless, I'm going to have one unit sit, either the low end or the high end is going to sit, and the middle cars will sell. Have you noticed that, Jason?
I really like that idea, what you said. You can't be everything to everybody. We've tried the same thing over the years. I mean, you guys have been in business longer than we have. We're 24 years, and we've tried several approaches. We've sold Mercedes and BMW here. We've sold Ford Taurus here, and it all sells eventually, you know. Right. But I think in this day and age, the key is turn, and the velocity of the lot is so important. The longer you have the vehicle, the more money you have tied up in it. And to do our best, I think the less we have, the least amount of time we have that car on our lot, the better. And the sooner we can get that payment stream coming in from that car, the better. So,
and does that have to do with,
to do that is you got to position yourself in the market properly.
Yeah. And like you said, that's because those high turn vehicles in our buy here, pay here industry are high demand type vehicles, right? Yeah. So you want to find that best car that your market is going to love, you know, whatever that might be, within your business model, right? I mean, I could sell all the Z71 Silverados in the world if I had them. Can all my people afford them? Not so much. But I also know that I can sell the crap out of a little Dodge Dakota too, you know, or a Chrysler 300 on a set of 19s. They're going to go like before it even rolls in front of the gate. But but are those well-performing cars, you know, are those cars that are going to perform well in the long run?
What's the greatest thing that happens, talking about this, when it does, and it's happened several times over the years to me, but to find a car that people really love and a car that is a really good car come together, it's rocket fuel. Because what happens a lot of times is the cars that people really like suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they break down all the time, and the loans don't perform. And then you have really big issues. So, yeah, you know, the way to help prevent that though is having a reinsurance company. And we'll move on to that. And Jason, I know that setting up structuring a deal the right way involves giving warranties or selling service contracts and having gap and all those type things. And we know that you have a reinsurance company with Buckeye and offer other products. Can you walk us through your evolution of going from one bad performing reinsurance company to Buckeye, and how scary can that be, switching reinsurance companies, and your experience in that whole thing?
So I'll go ahead and say that my experience with the previous reinsurance provider was not necessarily bad. I just wasn't really, you don't know what you don't know. You know, so I didn't know what I was missing. We were with our last reinsurance management provider since 2017, 2018. And we were offering a warranty. We had done some self-insured gap, and we had gotten our CPI program off the ground. So all good things to get going. The gap was a little difficult for us to make sense of because you have to hold that gap money until the end of the term, which is, we're doing about a 38 month term. So that was a bit of a challenge for us. We want to redeploy that capital in a shorter amount of time. We were a little intimidated by switching because we felt that a reinsurance company is kind of a delicate subject, and you don't want to be moving things around too much. But we were able to move it over to Buckeye from the previous provider. We were able to open a new bank account that was friendly towards reinsurance companies that are based in an offshore country. And we eventually were able to get all the documentation we needed to switch over everything. And overall, it was about 3 months of worry and 1 week of actual pain.
It sounds like a new DMS is like 6 months of worry and 6 months of pain, right? Have you ever done that?
A lot less of a struggle than a DMS switch, that's for sure.
Sure.
And the guys at Buckeye really helped with that. They're great. The guys and the women at Buckeye, they were great.
And what was the catalyst for the move? Can I ask? Hey guys, real quick, want to tell you about a new sponsor, Luke. You guys have heard about all of the great people that support the podcast. Now we want to tell you a little bit more about Pastime.
Pastime's a great company, Jeff. We've known Josh and Jake and all the folks over at Pastime for so long. Chris has been on the podcast a couple of times, and just great GPS product, great company, wireless or wired, starter interrupter, not starter interrupter. And Jeff, it's not just for buy here, pay here stores anymore, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of applications we've talked about, even in the last few episodes, where you could put a GPS in your retail vehicles. Just for peace of mind to know where those cars are at any given time. You can put a wired one in some of your more expensive stuff to make sure it doesn't run away. And you've also got the opportunity to sell that GPS or the access to that GPS to your customer. So it's also a profit center if you're running a retail location.
It's protecting your assets as accounts. It's protecting your asset as your car's on the lot.
Yep.
And it can be a money-making process. Great company Pastime is. And Jeff, you know what? I'm so dumb. I should have put one in a car, one of my personal cars last week, because guess what? It got stolen off my lot.
Really?
Other car, one of my personal classic cars was stolen off my lot.
Oh, that's got to be infuriating. And for low, I mean, these things are so cheap these days.
100 to 150, $200, whatever it
Yeah.
is. It really doesn't matter. I would already have my Jeep back, and I don't, and I'm pretty sick about it.
Yeah. So get on it. Call the guys over at Pastime, get a quote, get set up with them. I mean, it's the only way to have peace of mind.
For sure.
All right, back to the episode.
We wanted to offer a product. We
Mhm.
wanted to do VSI with
Okay.
our customers.
Right.
And we felt like that would be a good opportunity to switch over. There were some things that we felt were missing from our previous reinsurance company, and we
Mhm.
thought that VSI would be a good reason to go over to Buckeye, and they assisted with us getting that set up and deployed on our current customers and our future customers. So overall, we were happy with the switch.
VSI, for everybody out there, it's a product that you can use your reinsurance company, not your reinsurance company, your RFC and your dealership can insure the loans that you're writing out for kind of catastrophic repossession problems. And it's a great product. We use it. It's something that everybody in the buy here, pay here business should be using. Jason, currently now, when you sell a car, are you, and making sure that deal is structured right, do y'all give a warranty up front? Do you sell more back end? What do you do to make sure that loan's going to last long enough?
Doing a $550 warranty charge to ourselves. We include that with the price of the vehicle.
Is that 12-month or?
Yeah, we're doing 12-month, 12,000 miles. We call it a powertrain plus warranty. So we're covering the powertrain, engine, trans, and we're doing the air conditioning and cooling system.
Got to have air conditioning down in Florida.
That's something that's kind of silly, if you don't include that. And overall, air conditioning can be a pretty simple thing. to get fixed, and people really find value in that.
Mm-hmm.
That do you notice loans performing better when they have the warranties on there?
So I think the old adage is if they pay for the first 12 months, chances are they're going to pay out. So if you can ensure that first 12 months for that mechanical failure of the vehicle, I think you're really doing yourself a favor. Up until 2018, we always sold cars as is, and we would do a 50-50 split with the cooling system and any oil leaks from the motor or transmission for the life of the loan. And it was helpful, but we always found that in the first 30 days, we were pretty much doing a policy repair on the car where we would eat the cost. And this just gives people the incentive to get their oil changed every 3,000 miles, as well as they get a peace of mind when they go home and they show their friends or family members this new car they just bought. I don't know about you guys, but my average miles right now at time of sale is 159,000. Now we're doing a lot of trucks and SUVs, full size stuff. And so it's not like we're selling 4-cylinder Kias with 160,000 miles on them. But when you put somebody behind the wheel of a 175,000 mile vehicle and you send them down the road with a 3-year term and $265 every 2 weeks, you may get some eyebrows from the uncle who feels like he's the auto professional of the family. Yeah. And he's like, you paid what for this? And how many miles? And boy, that's, overcoming that can be a challenge sometimes, but the warranty definitely helps.
Yeah, and that's really the bottom line. And I think we're all going to be facing that. I was talking to someone the other day and I said, I think the US is going to slide more towards the Southern American type model or the Cuba model, where it's like odometer's out the window. Don't even talk to me about how many clicks are on the odometer. Talk to me about the shape of the body, the rust. And I don't care if it's on its 3rd, 4th, or 5th engine and transmission combo. That doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've got to put a new engine in it. 200,000, 250, doesn't matter. As long as the body's still straight, we're going to fix everything else and just keep it going, So it's almost like that's the reassurance you have to give that customer is, look, yeah, you got 180 on the odometer and you're probably going to need an engine at sometime in this loan, but I got you covered.
So I want to present you guys, I want to tell you a story and then get your thoughts on this. At the last Buckeye event, I met this gentleman out in Arizona. His dealership is in Arizona. He has 4 locations, and he buys cars that have accidents, both bad titles and clean titles. He has a shop that's devoted to fixing these cars. And when he has, so the ACV of the vehicle plus recon, he is in his vehicles at $8,500 all in. The difference is his odometer says 75,000 miles on average.
Yeah.
Now, as a buy here, pay here guy, I don't really take that. Like, I don't care what that title says. I'd rather know the condition of that. If I'm putting a 75,000 mile vehicle out there on the road, I'm thrilled at $8,500. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a guy who's way more successful than all 3 of us talking right now. In my DPG group, you could combine all of us and not hit this guy, a former National Quality Dealer of the Year, who only buys salvage cars and very low mileage salvage cars and does buy here, pay here. He's got his own body shop that repairs everything. And this guy, I mean, one of the best people you'll ever speak to. I mean, just really, truly a good dude. And that's his business model. And he's buying high-end, low mileage wrecks, builds them the right way, sells them to customer, discloses everything. Got to disclose. And he's made a lot of money doing it. So there's like we always talk, there's a lot of ways to do what we do. Jeff wants to go these high miles cars, which I don't like. And Jason, and you are doing that, and But you're right. You may have to put a transmission, you may have to put a motor in it. And is there any difference in doing that than actually, putting a front clip on it? Maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like low miles better than
Low
high
miles. Yeah.
And I like a newer car better than an older car.
Yeah. And if you've got the resources to have a body shop and a frame machine, you're going to be straightening a lot of frames and you're going to be doing a lot of body work, and you got to make sure you're getting the right salvage title, or rebuilt title, and not the wrong ones that are coming out of, the deep waters of Texas or something. Yeah. So there's probably, yes, definitely you learn that, but for sure, from a buy here, pay here standpoint, my retail price on a clean title is pretty darn close to the retail price on a salvage title, right? I mean, the car's put back together, the title just has a brand on it. Not that it matters, because when you're done or when you're sick of this car, you're trading it back into me anyways, and I'm going to upgrade you into something better. So, you're never going to see the title.
Well, I think there's value. I mean, I think there's value to the customer if it's done right.
Right.
It's got to be done right. You've got to CYA everything you do in that situation. Not that we don't have to either. I'm not ready to get into that salvage car business, but I know somebody's made a lot of money that's done it. So,
but Jason, I think your bigger point is, how do we make reliable transportation affordable? Yeah. Right? That's really the answer. You're trying to get someone a 75,000-mile car that they can still afford, because regular title, there's no way you can afford that one. And I look at the higher miles. Okay, now you can actually afford to drive this body style of a Hyundai Elantra or something. So
it goes back to Jason's point about the car matching the customer you have, and if you want that higher end customer, a nicer car is going to probably get you a better customer. I don't know. Yeah. What scares me to death about that, Jason, and I want to know if you've been dealing with this year, but I think hiring body technicians is probably the hardest thing on the planet to do, even harder than hiring a regular technician. Do you do any body work at your shop? Do you have to hire any?
No, we just bought a shop close by to the dealership, and that was the goal, was to find somebody that could come and run a body shop and a paint shop for us. But we promised them a couple $1,000s worth of work every month, but we're not we don't own you. You rent from us. We're going to give you a lot of work, but at the end of the day, you have your own tax ID number, and there's no affiliation as far as the ownership of the business. We've continued to expand our garage. We went from 8 lifts to 13 lifts. We have 8 technicians right now, from A to C tech, and we understand that piece of the business because we've been doing it so long. And I kind of get to thinking, like, how scary is the body and paint business? Could you hire the right guy? If you gave him the right working conditions and you gave him good hours and you gave him good pay, like, I'm sure just like anything else, you'd learn it. I think our problem is we just don't know where to start, and we don't have the appetite to go in there right now and do that. But we're doing more body and paint than we've ever done on these clean title cars. So
yeah, sure. My dad runs our body shop, and we had a technician. He left last June, I think, and so now it's just my dad. And that's what he likes to do. He really likes to paint and sand, and that's fine. I never ever want to touch Bondo in my life. I've done it before. I don't want to do it again. And we've been trying to hire someone back. The experience, it's a different experience to learn body shop work than it is technician work. So, I read an article the other day about how long the wait was at most body shops in America. It is freaking 3 weeks to get just an estimate, and then it's like 2 months to schedule it in. It's insanity. But
I think that's actually swaying the insurance providers between totaling a car, because they don't want to pay for the rental car for 2 or 3 months.
100% it is.
Well, and they know that they can total it out and go sell it for twice as much in parts. Yeah, we of course, as buy here, pay here's those of you that have full coverage insurance and aren't just exclusively a CPI product, but we battle that all the time, man. Like, hey, they're trying to total it out. I got to see pictures, I got to see this first. Like, we're not going to agree to a salvage or a total unless this thing is really toast.
And back to that point about competing with other dealers on these clean title cars with low miles. I mean, there's this book called Blue Ocean Strategies, and it talks about a red ocean is full of blood from your other competitors. So a blue ocean is a clear body of water that you're basically swimming in by yourself, right? There's no sharks, there's no things attacking you like your competition. So when we step out into that 155 plus 1,000-mile vehicle, we're competing with so many less dealers than everybody trying to buy that 140,000-mile or below car that still qualifies for a bank or a finance company criteria. So, I think when you step out of that 155,000-mile, barrier that so many banks and credit unions and finance companies set, you're competing with so many less dealers with that higher mileage vehicle.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting takeaway, I think, is that using that red ocean, blue ocean, is that we do need to start thinking outside the box, because, it's getting harder and harder to do what we do. And if we keep doing that, and I'm not sure there's any growth potential, but if we could see a way to go in an opposite direction everybody else is going, I think there's money to be made and there's longevity in this business. What you think?
The blue ocean, in my opinion, is I like, Jeff, what you said about the South American or Central American ideas of, is the car sound? Is the motor and transmission going to perform for the life of the loan? And, I don't know about originating loans with 220,000 miles on again, like a 4-cylinder Korean or domestic car. I don't think that's going to really work well for the model, but are we looking at maybe doing like shorter terms on cheaper cars just to keep that cash flow coming? Are we looking at, everybody always talks about bumping out terms, and the whole idea to buy your pay here was like 2 to 3 year terms. You're in bed with the customer for a short amount of time. But I agree with Luke.
Yeah, well, everyone's stretching them out. But guess what? That 70,000-mile Korean car is already on its second engine. So what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? So what? You're going to do a third engine. And now getting the availability of these things is a whole nother story. So that's where the salvage thing becomes scary for me, because you're not getting the front end for a, Hyundai Elantra or something. There's just certain stuff that's just not out there. So if you're trying to rebuild all these things from parts, good luck, because I'm trying to rebuild barely anything from parts and they're impossible to find. So yes, I get that this all breaks down because I cannot find the engine for my Hyundai Sonata. Yeah,
good luck. Well, Jason, we appreciate you being with us today. Jeff, you got any parting words?
No, that's great, man. We could have these conversations forever. So it's just like dealers getting around John about, our struggles, our headaches, but it also opens up your mind. Sometimes we try to challenge those things. So when we throw out crazy ideas like this, carry some salvage, do some high mileage, stick to low mileage, do all Jeeps, do all electric cars, whatever it is. We're just trying to expand people's thought process and kind of break down that paradigm of what you think you have to be doing, what you think the buy here, pay here model is. Luke said it earlier, there's a million ways to skin this cat, so get some new ideas.
Well, let's get going. Let's try to sell some cars. Let's go swim in some blue ocean. And
we're going to see you guys April 11th at 1:30 p.m. for Jason's session on what makes a good deal.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Dealers helping dealers. Please leave us a review and subscribe. The Independent Dealer Podcast.